keeps people busy, it keeps people working, and it actually produces something. So to me, best use is kind of an argument that could go on all night, and I don't want to do that. But I think that we have a couple of people out here that have a good point, and that is that Mr. Schmidt, for instance, isn't going to be developing this, and we know where the market is at right now, and particularly that one parcel that he's talking about. So I think we should talk about that a little bit, with your indulgence. And then Mr. Townsend, basically the same issue. Ms. Fahey, now tell me what, you wrote something in our packet, Ms. Rosenfeld, about Ms. Fahey's issue.
Mr. Mayor, her comment is regards to cemeteries.
Yeah.
I cannot speak to the legalities of cemeteries and how they're platted or exempt. Maybe Council Vos can.
Okay. You got something for us?
Mayor and council members, I think if the issue is about special assessments, that's not going to be impacted by how the property is zoned. A cemetery will either be specially accessible or not based on it being a cemetery regardless of how it's zoned. So any change you make in the zoning isn't going to change your ability to impose special assessments.
And that may be one of the only properties that gets away with it, right?
Not the only, but one of relatively few.
Okay.
Would they be able to build a maintenance shop on their property in the future?
What do you think? Maintenance.
Basically a garage to put the
Place to-
lawnmower in.
Yeah, what do you think?
A shed.
Sorry, I don't
He
understand the
asked,
question.
like, if they need to build a shed to put a lawnmower in or something like that, would they be able to do that?
On the cemetery property?
Yeah.
Or some cemeteries have chapels like that.
Oh.
Mayor, if I can just say, if I understand, Engineer Duncan is helping point out the properties we're talking about. I think they're currently zoned A2 rural residential. They would be rezoned to B2 highway commercial. And so the rights that will go along with that rezoning to build something like a maintenance shed will actually increase. I mean, they'll have more right to build more commercial-like buildings than they do today as an A2 rural residential zone property. So it's hard to, I guess we could sit here and try and come up with examples where they'd be losing development rights, but I think it's pretty hard to do that. I think they're gaining development rights, they being the cemetery.
Thank you.
The Townsend property, I was on the council when the commerce was worked on. We talked about at that time that was going to be commercial. First, we were going to put a road through there, but we had a lot of residents didn't like that, so we moved the road. That's why it's confusing. You get down South Street. We wanted a straight road, but it didn't work out. And we talked about him having a nice, they have an opening there. What's it called, an opening on the road?
Field access.
Access. It has an access right in the center of it, and we could picture at the meetings them days that there could be a commercial building back there, or even a C-store maybe. I mean, that's back a few years.
Mr. Mayor, if I can comment to that, there was a lot of back and forth on that property between commercial and a high density or medium high density residential. If you recall, there was many meetings that went from commercial to medium to splitting it in half to, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, and the final action was this. And keep in mind that would increase density if you changed it to commercial, which would require an amendment.
Well, I have a question. Why wasn't Founders Park considered parkland?
Is it currently zoned R3?
Yep.
Parkland is allowed in an R3 district, so we left it alone.
Why?
That's what's allowed in that zoning district. You can have parkland in residential areas. I mean, we could go through at a future time and change all the parkland to parks or public. It was decided at that time to leave it alone because it's allowed in that district already.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I have
Mr.
one more
I have a
question.
quick question here,
Yep.
and that is, what is the purpose of recategorizing all these areas? Is there a rush to do that? And if so, what is that rush that justifies it?
Councilmember O'Laughlin, Mayor Leese, the comprehensive plan, as I indicated, the future land use map that was approved in the comprehensive plan, the Met Council requires you to implement your future land use map within 9 months from the time you adopted your comp plan. Essentially, our 9 months is up right now. So there is a time limit to make sure that these changes are done.
I guess what bothers me about it is, okay, like Mr. Schmidt here, and maybe Mr. Townsend as well. Mr. Schmidt, for example, has a piece of land that probably nothing's going to happen to it for 10 years at least. And yet we're rushing to recategorize it right now. And it looks like it's, to me, it looks like it's a gimmick to collect more tax money, to be honest with you. Because right now, I don't know what his taxes are, but what do you pay for taxes out there roughly?
I'm not sure if I said $2,700 or $3,000, that might be
Okay.
possible.
And with it being recategorized, it's going to be considerably more. We don't have to guess how much more, but it's going to be more.
I guess I'm very concerned about what we don't know yet. Just
Yeah.
like this, it seems like right now, it seems like I'm getting this shoved right down my throat. And the other thing is that this was in 2008 as when this first started, and I was at the meeting that this comp plan was brought into, the work. And what surprises me is that how much it has changed from then till now, and how conservative I'm started to be because I don't know the future, and that's what does really baffle me. The other thing is they said, I guess I'm a home builder, general contractor, I make changes all the time during construction if someone wants to change something. I don't know how much work this amendment is to do an amendment. And the other thing is that this property were rezoned tonight to R3. If I went to develop in 5 years, I'd still have to rezone it because, again, I would do part of it in R3 and I'd probably try to do part of it in R7 to buffer into the property on Commerce Drive. So it's kind of a lose thing for me. Thank you for asking.
Well, another question I had,